Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for joining me. About to have some coffee this morning. Coffee this morning is Nesco or Nestle dark coffee. Alright, let me put my coffee over here. So it's closer to me. Didn't someone want some catfish? If I'm not mistaken. Sashimi? I don't know how to do that. Alright, let's go to where the hell do I get a squid at? BRB. Alright, I'm back. Hello there. What is the flower dance? I don't have someone. Oh wait. Let me bring my stuff. I'm gonna upgrade. I got money now. Alright, let's go see what this... What forest is he talking about? Anyone know where this place is at? Is it this way? Oh, it is this way. Is that it? Alright, we're gonna have a little intermission here.
This is a track. You put the top track on top, you put the bottom track on the bottom. It's the same track. You just cap this stuff. It's non-load bearing, but I don't need load bearing because I already have the load picked up by this 4x8 up here that went on to these 4x4s at the end. So we took the 4x4 at the end, we just put a basic little post cap on there, clipped it down. Did the same at the end there. This will all be metal stud. The metal stud will come and turn the corner and do a return. This will be a bar stool area with a counter to eat. This here is going to be the grill, hence the gas line here, sink.
It's the Baja heavyweight bout to rule them all, Ford's Raptor R versus the 2026 version of the Ram TRX SRT. This, my friends, is going to be a good one.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So that's why we've come here to Johnson Valley in California, where the legendary King of the Hammers event is held to put these two pit bulls up against each other. And seeing as this place is a genuine playground for anything off-roady, today we're going to check out the looks and the interiors, figure out the suspension and the handling, crawl over some rocks, have a dirty little drag race, and figure out how these things fly. This is a bit of a dream come true for me, although I did imagine it to be less sweaty.
I have the original.
This is the Ford Raptor R. Now, the original Raptor was widely accepted to have started the Baja super truck trend way back in 2010. So off-road race inspired, big power, all of the kit. And so it was for a little while. But then Ram came out with the TRX and over 700 brake horsepower, which prompted Ford to respond with this, the R, and its 720 horsepower. No V6 bi-turbo in this version. That R power comes from a 5.2 litre V8 with a massive supercharger. It's codenamed Carnivore, and it's actually a direct descendant of the Predator V8 that sits in the GT500 Shelby Mustang. And it also goes to prove that Americans are just much better at naming things. It's got 720 brake horsepower, 640 pounds-feet of torque, a smaller supercharger pulley for a bit more boost, bigger injectors than before. This, on the other hand, is the Ram TRX SRT. TRX or T-Rex, presumably because a Tyrannosaurus Rex eats a raptor. This is currently the most powerful half-ton production street-legal gas-powered truck anywhere in existence, which to me feels like an increasingly niche claim. It's now back with the SRT badge after a slight hiatus. It has the Hellcat 6.2 litre supercharged V8 with 75 brake horsepower and 40 pounds-feet more than the previous version. So that is now 777 brake horsepower and 680 pounds-feet of torque, which is ever so slightly more than the Raptor, although this car weighs more than the Ford. So their on-paper statistics are remarkably similar. Both get full advertising on the front. You certainly will not forget who makes these things. Then they've got chunky off-road front bumpers with snatch hooks either side and a bit of light underbody protection. I have noticed one thing about these cars though. If I stand next to one, they're chest height. And the Ram is even bigger. You're not just going to lose a child in the blind spot, you might lose the entire school bus. After that, the Raptor's got this plastic sort of shaker hood thing with a few vents on top and a bit of venting down the side here on the front wings, which will allow things to fly out of that engine bay, whereas the Ram has just that little bit more. So it's got a hood scoop, it's got vents, it's got this kind of shaker hood arrangement back here. And then the wheel arches, again, the Ram, it just feels slightly wider, slightly bigger, whereas the Raptor, though not a delicate vehicle, feels slightly smaller and slightly more, not exactly petite, but definitely smaller. And as we come down the car, they're both 5-seat quad cabs, and again, when you get to the rear arches, the Ram is slightly more swollen, feels slightly more dense, whereas the Raptor is relatively subtle. And then as you get to the back, there are graphics on the haunches of both, and then we arrive back to more billboard tailgates. There's also the usual off-road bumpers on both cars, complete with snatch hooks either side, and single exit exhausts both sides. Though I have noticed that the Ram's exhausts are ever so slightly bigger than the Raptor R's exhaust, which makes me feel like it's trying to do a game of one-upmanship. Though despite their differences, these two are very similar, both intellectually and physically. But these things are just as much about the suspension as they are about their engines. Take the Raptor R, for instance. Now this has double wishbone front suspension with 5-link at the back, and they're supported by these Fox Racing dual live valve dampers, which should help keep it controlled when it's in the rough stuff. They're not as hardcore as some aftermarket kit, but still pretty strong for a production truck. Now all of that sits on these rather large 37-inch BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2s. The Ram, on the other hand, sits on 35s. In this case, Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrains, which to me is an immediate disadvantage off-road, though probably slightly more precise when it's on-road. It has a similar suspension setup to the Raptor R in that it's got double wishbones at the front and 5-link at the back, but this time it's got Bilstein E-squared Black Hawk dampers, which are slightly adaptive. They're also the same in that they've got 13 inches of front suspension travel and 14 inches at the rear. They are essentially argumentative twins. If you want really practical stuff, the Ram gets a 5-foot 7-inch bed and the Raptor 5-foot 5 inches with a handy pull-out step. They have 1,310 pounds and 1,410 pound payloads respectively, which works out at some kilograms for the TRX and a few more for the Raptor. So they aren't the biggest trays in the world, though they can handle light work. The Ram tows 3,674 kilograms, about 8,100 pounds, and the Ford a bit more at 3,946, 8,700 pounds, which is probably enough for most, because if you really need to haul, softish off-road suspension probably isn't the best option. And the Ram weighs 2,857 kilograms, 6,300 pounds, undercut by the Ford at 2,699 kilograms or 5,950 pounds, which is why the 0 to 60 times are pretty much bang on 3.5 for each. That's motivated for vehicles the size of small religious communities. And so to the inside. I'm not sure what my preconceptions were, but I'm totally blown away by the modern supertruck, both the Raptor R and the Ram SRT, because they are really, really good. They have so many features and they're so well built that it just feels like not what I was expecting. So in the Raptor R, we have some really nice screens. This has a really nice animation when you start the car. It's a Raptor R doing skids and being all dynamic, and then a big landscape screen in the middle, which is all touch screen. And I'll just run you through a few of these features because they're quite similar on both of these trucks. So first up, when you're getting settled, it's got really lovely Recaro seats. These are the optional ones. You get leather as normal seats. They're heated and ventilated. And then if you want to get comfy, it's got electrically adjustable pedals. So they come up and down to make sure that you can sit in the right position. We don't get that on European things as much, so I really like that. The steering wheel, absolutely the correct position for driving this kind of car because it's quite high. I feel like I need to be sat up so I can see over the blind spots. It's got big paddles that are attached to the steering wheel for the 10-speed gearbox. And interestingly, there's quite a few buttons on the steering wheel, but they do different things. This is the usual stuff for cruise control and voice activation and volume. And then on this side, you've got some menu options, but you've also got a button that adjusts the steering weight. So you've got 3 different steering weights. You can change the damping from 3 different positions. That's independent of any of the drive modes. So you can have the steering and damping in different modes. And then you can have an exhaust that sounds different. So you can have quiet, normal, sport and Baja. Baja is supposed to be only off-road use because it's quite loud, but that's quite nice because you can knock it right back into quiet when you're trotting home at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then in the center console, lovely screen. It seems quite responsive. The graphics are all right. I'm not sure about some of this trim. It's a little bit cheap feeling, but
Here I wanted to explore like the more, it's like what next, you know? It's like we have our basic needs met with Stardew Valley. Well, now let's take it beyond. You know, when I first started, it was kind of just a pipe dream project, something I didn't have huge ambitious ideas for it. I was like, I'm just going to make a little game. It's based on a kind of a game that I loved as a kid, Harvest Moon. I just want to, you know, create my own world that's similar to that. Um, and you know, at first it's very fun when you first start working on a new game. It's all fresh. You're seeing things come together really quick. Then you enter the kind of like grind of adding in all the content and polishing everything, and it can get a little bit not as fun when you're doing that. But it's like, you know, I started off kind of having no ambitions. My ambitions for the games like kind of grew over time as my skills improved, as the game started to come together, and I started to feel like, you know, maybe this could actually be something. I still didn't think it was going to be super popular. I thought it would be maybe a niche game for Harvest Moon lovers. And I even thought a lot of them would probably hate it because they'd be like, this isn't as good as my favorite Harvest Moon game, you know? But so then that slowly like ramped up. The game came out. You know, okay, here's another thing. When I was making the game, there's many times where I thought this game's awful. Like, it's not fun. Like, is this even, no one's going to like this, you know? But the truth is, I'm always very hard on myself. I'm like my own toughest critic in a huge way. But it's just that mindset, I think, helps me always struggle to do better. I always need to make the game better. I always need to improve my skills. And then the game came out, and it was like, you know, it blew up pretty quickly. And that was definitely a strange time. It was kind of, it took me a while to get used to the fact that suddenly, you know, there's this game I made is actually popular. Like, people are playing it, people love it. It's, yeah, millions of people. Quickly, it was selling millions of copies, and it had, you know, 98% positive on Steam and all this stuff. And I mean, it's just like, it was surreal. For a long time, it was completely surreal. But I didn't have too much time to think about it because I had to fix bugs. I had more content updates that I wanted to do. It's like, okay, I have this huge audience now. I need to keep it going. I can't just like, I'm not going to just, you know, go live in the Bahamas or something. Like, I have serious work to do now. At this point now, almost 10 years after release, it's definitely simmered down a bit. I've gotten used to this new reality. It's at the end of the day, I'm still the same guy that just kind of sits on the computer almost all the time working. That's just what I like to do.
Are you easier on yourself now, or are you still your own harshest critic?
Maybe a little bit, because I do think my skills have like genuinely improved with 10 years of experience. I mean, I guess it's 10 plus 4.5, so it's, you know, almost 15 years of experience as a game developer. I do feel like my skills have improved, and I try to be objective about that. But I'm never gonna think, you know, I'm great. I've done it. I've achieved it. This is the end point. You know, like, no. I'm always thinking like, I'm not that good, and I could be way better at literally every aspect of game development. My strategy is to have extreme criticism of yourself, but then also 110% faith in yourself at the same time. It's like, you know that you can improve, you know, and that's kind of the mindset that I had. It's like, okay, I'm objectively not very good right now, but I know if I practice, if I put 1,000 hours in, I'm going to get better. And then I just, you know, and that's still, I think, where I'm at. That's just my mindset.
What's your process for teaching yourself new things?
I mean, really, mostly what I do is just practice. It's really just, I think, doing pixel art, like countless hours. Like, I've just learned things on my own. There was one time where I briefly looked at a little bit of pixel art theory, which was helpful. I learned a few things about, you know, anti-aliasing and dithering and banding, these like certain pixel art concepts. That's the only time I ever looked up anything. After that, I just went back to my pixel art, and I've just been making stuff. And it's just, over time, you just get better. You start to develop a feel for it. And that's where you really know you've gotten pretty decent at something, is that you just have this like deep intuition. There's no thought about it, really. It's just like, I look at pixel art and I'm like, okay, I need to change this pixel and that pixel. I don't even know why exactly. It's just a feeling.
Do you still go back to improve on areas in the game?
Yeah, it's not necessarily something I intend to do, but it always inevitably happens. And it's kind of a constant struggle. You know, it's like, I'm working on the new game, Haunted Chocolatier. it's been a few years that I've been working on it now, and it's like I look at some of the stuff I did at the beginning, and I'm like, oh man, here we go again. I'm gonna have to redo all of this. And it's not like it's even bad. It's just like I just feel like it's okay. It's part of the problem of being like, especially a solo dev, is like it takes so long to make a game. I'm literally a different person in 4 years. So it's like my whole feelings about everything have changed. Like my art, my aesthetic sensibilities have evolved. You know, like maybe when I started, I was in a jewel tones phase, and then it's like now I'm like in a, I don't know, like some totally different. You know, I'm pastel colors or something. You know, it's like, not that that's just an example, but yeah, it's just so it's hard to be coherent with yourself over this long period of time that it takes to make a game, you know?
Is your approach more philosophical now after so much success?
I mean, I would say that maybe, you know, my life situation has changed a bit. I don't think I'm like a luxury guy now. Like my lifestyle is unchanged from before Stardew Valley, for the most part. So I've always been like a kind of head in the clouds kind of guy. So I actually don't think that that's really like a new thing. It's really just Stardew Valley, even though while it is kind of a grounded game in a way, it is also very fantastical, and like there's a lot of weird stuff. There's talking raccoons, there's magic, you know, there's dwarves, there's all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, I'm not like, and just like, yeah, I've always been someone who like, I'm very much interested in the imagination and imaginary worlds and fantasy and that sort of thing. But yes, it is true that, you know, now that I don't have to work the theater job, the usher job, and my life is pretty free and open. I can kind of do whatever I want whenever I want. It does allow more room for like thinking about stuff, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. But I try to always channel that into my work because I want to be productive. That's very important to me.
Have you seen the Baldur's Gate 3 Stardew mod?
I haven't tried it. I don't really try Stardew Valley mods, but I have seen like pictures of it, screenshots, and I read an article about it. But I think it's cool. I mean, I'm totally supportive of modding. And the recent Stardew Valley update 1.6 made it like so much easier to mod. Modders have like so much more power and control over any little thing. So I'm hoping that they utilize those features to make this. I think another thing about Stardew is it's so like just accessible in terms of, I mean, you play this game and it does look kind of amateur in a way. And so it feels like, you know, I could make a mod for this. This is like very simple. And it's true. It is pretty simple to mod, and it is like a, you know, it's not a super high advanced technology type of game. It is a pretty simple game at its core. So I think it's a great way for people to like get into modding.
Why does everyone love Krobus the Shadow Monster?
That's a good question, you know. I mean, he's just lovable. I don't know. I love him too. I think it's just maybe there's something about the fact that he's not like human, you know, like and he's just kind of like I don't know. He's just like a guy, you know. It's just like there's certain things where like when someone's a human, there's certain like, you know, baggage that comes with that, where we're like, oh, this reminds me of this person that I know, or that person. When someone's like a kind of a blob shadow monster guy with a really nice personality, he's friendly too. I think that's another thing people like. It's like he's a monster, but he's actually just like a nice little guy, you know, like he's a friendly guy.
Why do so many people hate Pierre?
I assumed people wouldn't like Pierre, but I didn't realize how the extent to which they would hate Pierre. Yeah. And I think I kind of advocate for Pierre a little bit. I think he's not as bad as some people think. I mean, he does, after all, well, I don't want to spoil it, but he plays a crucial role in the community center path, you know, at the end of the game.
Community center or Jojo Mart?
I mean, I'd have to say I lean community center. That's kind of, and that's one of the things I kind of regret about Stardew Valley is I feel like it's a little bit too on the nose with like Jojo are the bad guys and community center is the right way to do it. And it's like, I think if I made Stardew Valley again, I would try to be a little more nuanced. Like maybe there are some positives to Joja, you know, like nothing is that black and white, like in reality. There's usually nuance to everything, you know, and that was something that I wanted to have with Stardew Valley, is like have nuance and things, but I kind of failed in that particular aspect, I would say.
What else would you have done differently in Stardew Valley?
I think I would have probably spent more time like fleshing out the characters more, like, and this is something I actually have mixed feelings about, because some of the character storylines, they're kind of like left as cliffhangers almost. Like there's no resolution to certain things, like Mayor Lewis and Marnie's like secret relationship, or like Linus, even his like there's no I mean, I actually ended up adding in kind of a conclusion to the Linus arc, but then there's things like Clint, where it's like, you know, I have ideas for how I could resolve these things, but part of me is almost like, I wonder if I should, because it kind of then does it, like it's closing the book in a way. I kind of like that it's open-ended, and it gives people the ability to kind of themselves like finish the story in their head, which makes Stardew Valley more like personal to every person, because there's a lot of room for your own interpretation on things.
How did you notice the left and right harvesting bug?
That was something that I think the community discovered, and then I was like, what? And like I actually tested it out, and it's like, what? I can't believe this. And how did no one tell me for like 8 years? It was like literally 8 years after the game came out that I learned about this. So I'm sure there's still more things in the game like that, but that was crazy. And then I looked in the code and it was like, yep, sure enough, like when I set up like the animations, I had just accidentally made the animations, I think, like slightly like longer when you're facing left to right. And it was like, it was just a mistake.
What's your opinion on fishing minigames?
I like fishing minigames, and I like Stardew's fishing minigame. I know it's controversial. A lot of people hate it, but I think it's fun. I think it could have been done better. My regret with the Stardew minigame is I think it starts out too hard. I think there should have been a better curve of like, it starts out easy and then it gets a little harder, like, because you're catching more difficult.
Over here, thus hot, cold waste here will run electrical through here, so you can get your margarita blender going. And here's a good example here that you can see of the treated 2x6. Wait a minute, is this 2x8 or 2x6? I think it's 2x8. That is been tighten bolted to the existing foundation. Above we got 2x6, and we got metal roofing, and we cut the bird's beak notch in it, so as it goes over, cantilevers over. This stuff is pretty cool, this metal roofing. It's down there. Put a cross member every, I don't know, 32 on center or something like that. And 8-foot sheets, start at the bottom, overlap maybe 2 inches as you go up. Becomes waterproof. The screws all have a rubber grommet on them, so they're watertight when you sink them. That's what those little washers are. They're a little metal washer and then a little rubber grommet on top. Makes it waterproof. These post holders, one tighten bolt down, up into a cap, into a 4x10 header that stretches the length, and then these go over the top and cantilever out. That's how I designed this. And Bob's your uncle. There's your outdoor kitchen deck. All right, let me tell you something that may not sound like much, but it is huge. This backyard is a late 70s, early 80s, brick ribbons everywhere, brick coping. All this coping was brick all the way around this pool. It was aged, bad cement that had the weird rock salt grain on it with ribbons of brick. This was all brick. The stairs, all the stairs were brick. The coping was all brick. It was just aged cement with crappy Boogie Nights 70s bad brick everywhere. So the whole thing was an aged 70s funky town mess. Now, you could jack out this entire mess, including the coping, and dumpster it all out of here. But that would be a major, major undertaking and super expensive, and you'd have to pump yards and yards of concrete back and all that kind of stuff. Or you could just bust out all the brick and the coping and try to replace it with something. There is something called micro cement. They come in. This isn't the finished product. The finished product's gonna have a nice finish on it. But they come in, they chemical blast the whole thing, they scuff the whole thing, they epoxy all the cracks, they skim coat over all the brick. This is all just big old thick 70s brick here. They skim coat over all of it, they smooth the whole thing out. It's a layer, it's all in, you know, maybe 30 seconds thick. They skim the whole thing, they fill all the cracks. They fill all the bricks, and then they come in and put a finished coat on it, and it ends up looking like a modern, cool backyard that you poured yesterday, when in fact, this is 50 years old and a pile of junk, and you can do it for pennies on the dollar. So don't blow out that old patio, don't blow out that old deck. Don't pull out all the crappy, ugly brick ribboning you have in that bad 70s backyard you got. Skim over it, fill it in, and do the micro cement over the top of it. You'll save a ton of money.
You know, I'm not that bothered. Down here, it's got the transmission, so 2 high, 4 high, 4 automatic, where it chooses for itself, and 4 low. And you can lock the rear differential by pressing that button. There's wireless charging, loads of cup holders, loads of storage. There's even a 12 volt and an actual plug in the dash, so you can run your laptop straight off the normal plug. This is the aircon. If I go up here, there's some interesting things. That's the trail assist, which is basically off-road cruise control. Traction control off, the cameras, it's got loads of cameras. You can look at your trailer hitch, and interestingly, here, this is an option, but they have this thing called Pro Trailer. So if you've got a trailer on the back, you can engage that, and then you turn this knob left and right, and that actually points the trailer, and the car handles the steering by itself. So for those of you who can't reverse a trailer, you need that option. In terms of driver assistance, this has auto hold, cruise control, speed limit assist, lane keeping assist, pre-collision assist, exit warning, rear camera view, driver alert, cross traffic alert. Everything you could possibly need, all that you would expect in a luxury car, is in this truck. Then if you go into features again, you've got trail turn assist, which is basically when it brakes the inside wheel when you're trying to do a hard corner off-road. So if I'm trying to do a right-hand turn, it'll brake the inside right-hand wheel with the ABS, and the car will not do a tank turn, but it will definitely sweep it around, so it drags a wheel. It's like a dogleg version. It's got wireless CarPlay, Android Auto. One thing I really like, and you do get this on F-150s anyway, is this. This is the gear selector, so that's normal, but you can press that, and then you can open this, oh, not that one, like that. So you get a nice little picnic.
Fish. But like the way I did it, it's like you start out with this tiny little bar, and it's like, I should have started with the bar a little bit bigger, I think. And maybe then it gets slightly bigger. But like, yeah, I kind of, but I still think the fishing game is like good overall. And it makes it so that the fishing is a lot easier, but
Do you have a cutoff point for Stardew?
it's at that place right now because the 1.6 update is pretty settled at this point. There was ongoing console ports and bugs, bug fixes and all that stuff, but it's pretty settled now. So I'm committed to like not working on Stardew Valley. We kind of switched from selling it directly to just kind of selling it to distributors who send it to like board game shops. Part of the reason is like just, I mean, selling it directly there is a lot of like hassle and overhead with that, like doing it yourself. And also like, I don't want to always be like bothering the fans being like, go buy this thing, you know, like I feel like at some point you kind of burn through like people's bandwidth to like support you or something. And it's like, you know, the last thing I want is for someone to buy the board game to support me or to Stardew Valley. I want them to buy it because they genuinely want this item and they feel that the price is a. I tried Sunhaven. I tried Graveyard Keeper. I think that's pretty much all I've tried, to be honest. I messed around with some like, I feel like they're Stardew Valley inspired, but like I did boot up Disney Dreamlight Valley because I was like, wait, it's called Dreamlight Valley? Like what's going on here? So I had to check it out.
All right, y'all.
And
I'm
it's like
heading
it's
out.
more, I'd say it's more like Animal
have a good
Crossing than
one.
Stardew. It's really great that